रंजीत जी नमस्कार।
Thank you, Dr. Manoj ji. Happy to see you after long time.
गुड आफ्टरनून डॉक्टर पुरुषोत्तम जी, कैसे हैं? नाइस टू सी यू।
बहुत बढ़िया.
हाउ इज वाइजैक?
Vizag is hot as usual because of the humid climate.
Great to see you.
We all should be grateful to God for making us survived from the COVID.
But last week you were in Delhi, na?
Yeah. Actually, yesterday also I'm supposed to be in Delhi, but because of the cyclonic weather here, they cancelled all the flights. Not come to Delhi. I cancelled my visit also. How is life in Aligarh? Now we are in Aligarh. Okay. That is your hometown.
Home state.
Is it home state? Okay. Like me. I also came back here because it's my home state.
अच्छा.
Entire career I missed my home state and people here.
Great.
So
That is nice.
Hello, madam.
Hello, Katyanjali.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna start. It's time already.
Thank you for coming. And Dr. Ullas. Sir, good afternoon. Ashutosh Sharma ji, our honorable former secretary DST has just joined.
Good afternoon, sir.
Namaskar, sir. Purushottam this side.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Long time.
Yes, sir. We too feel the same. Great to see you, sir.
Okay. It's time I'll start.
Yes.
National Technology Day in India is observed on 11 May every year to commemorate the achievements and acknowledge the works of scientists, researchers, engineers, and teachers. National Technology Day helps remind us about the scientific advancements made by the country. It is also the day to celebrate the works of all the people who have contributed to the growth of science. Namaskar and a very big hello from Hong Kong. This is Dr. Kadyanjali Shukla. Welcome to all the dignitaries, a panel of wonderful speakers, and our lovely audience to this awesome gathering on the occasion of National Technology Day. राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस वर्ष 2022, jointly organized by Mangalayatan University, Aligarh, and Indian Science Communication Society, India. The theme of this year's National Technology Day is Integrated Approach in Science and Technology for Sustainable Future. In this regard, in today's program, we'll be discussing how India is transforming from technology exporting to technology importing nation. But before that, we are going to start with the Deep Prajwalan ceremony. Please join us, all the dignitaries and audience, everyone. Deep Prajwalan ceremony. Can we have the Deep Prajwalan ceremony, please?
Yes.
Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah. Shatru buddhi vinashaya dipajyotirnamostute. Dipajyotirnamostute. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampadah.
Thank you for joining, everyone. Now to start with, we have our keynote speaker, Dr. Manoj Kumar Pataria ji. who has recently been superannuated as advisor and Scientist G, Science and Research Council, Engineering Research Council, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, for promoting science research and innovation in the country. He has prior assignment, as a prior assignment, he has served as director, CSIR National Institute of Science Communication and Information Resources, and taken a number of initiatives earlier. Dr. Pataria ji was Additional Director General of Doordarshan and All India Radio, where he was responsible for setting up 24/7 satellite TV channel, DD Kisan, including external broadcasts. He also served as head and advisor, National Council of Science and Technology Communication, and started a variety of innovative programs. A well-accomplished scientist, academician, administrator, and communication professional, Professor Pataria ji specializes in biosciences, mass media, management, and policy. He is decorated with prestigious national and international awards. He has a number of publications and 2 Indian patents to his credit. He has authored, edited, and co-edited widely acclaimed books, Genes Write the Story, Sharing Science, and Science Meets Communication. He has been visiting professor at National University of South Korea and University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. He has also served as the outstanding professor, Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, and adjunct professor, National Institute of Advanced Studies and Guided Research. He is the president of the Society for Information Science and founding fellow of the Academy of Engineering and Technology of the Developing World under the aegis of UNESCO. He has been elected as chair of International ASA Special Committee on Share Communication, that is recognition of positioning India at global level in the area of science and communication. Pataria ji, please share your vision with us.
Very good afternoon to all of you. आप सभी को राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस की बहुत-बहुत शुभकामनाएं. Respected Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, today's chief guest, former Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor KVSM Krishna of Mangalayatan University, Dr. H. Purushottam, who is Chair Professor at Andhra University, formerly CMD, National Research Development Corporation of India. Today's speakers, Professor Ullas Gurudas from Mangalayatan University and Professor Poonam Bhatt, Dean, Students Welfare, Lucknow University. My colleague VP Singh from Indian Science Communication Society, other dignitaries, faculty members, academicians, scientists, scholars, students, and dear participants. It's a great day for all of us when India really achieved a series of significant developments on the day in 1998. One of them was highly important. We are proud of that. That is Pokhran 2. That took place in Pokhran in 1998 on this day. And that is why the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji declared India as a nuclear state, 6th of the nuclear club. Similarly, there was a series of incidences took place of scientific developments of the country. One, Hansa, an aircraft developed by NAL CSIR on the same day, and a missile was test fired successfully. So all these 3-4 events subsequently and consecutively really triggered the idea of declaring this day as National Technology Day. As we already have National Science Day that is being celebrated on 28th of February every year. So this is just to give emphasis on technology as well, because we have been discussing a lot on scientific developments, but actual progress that we are looking around is really comes from technological advancements and innovation. So for giving more emphasis on technology, we are celebrating National Technology Day every year with all these significant achievements that we have achieved over the period on the same day. And this is the time to celebrate the India's technological advancements and growth. At the same time, as we know, India is the third largest country of the world that has third largest scientifically and technologically trained manpower in the country. At the same time, India is also importing something like 95% precision technology from outside. And the reason for which was identified by one of the former Director Generals of CSIR, Dr. R.A. Mashelkarji. He says that we are very good when it comes to Saraswati. Saraswati means concept, that is science. But he says when it comes to converting that Saraswati into Lakshmi, we find it difficult, that is technology. So how to convert Saraswati into Lakshmi, how to convert science into technology, I think that is a real challenge. And for which we require different sets of skills, aptitudes, attitudes, apart from the scientific attitude. So what we have discovered over the period that we have been talking more about scientific temper. And we belong to the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology. Always science and technology come together because science as a concept and technology is the application of that concept. So when there is a technology with science, there is science and technology are together. So similar to scientific temper, there has to be something like technological temper. So what is this technological temper all about? If scientific temper, generally we consider that if we are analytical, we are rational, we are systematic, we are able to have minute observations, we can relate things, connect things, derive inferences, take decisions on certain parameters, apply method of science in our day-to-day life, it means we are having the scientific temper. Similarly, scientific temper, if shapes our inner self, the technological temper shapes our outcome, what we have delivered, how do we conduct in the society, what is our outcome. So more precisely, how we are able to achieve our head and hands together, how we are able to synchronize, how we are able to align, how we are able to have precision kind of attitude and aptitude for doing things in a different way. So I think that is the requirement for technological advancements, that precision, in fact, we require a lot. So we would like to suggest that apart from scientific temper, we have to apply this technological temper as well. Because generally we have a tendency that there is a principle called 80-20 principle. If we accomplish something like 80% of our task, we feel satisfied. But the excellence lies in the remaining 20%. So we have to complete the entire task if we are if we want to achieve the excellence. So this excellence can come out of technological temper with this precision. So that precision is very much required. If we are able to infuse this kind of attitude amongst our youngsters, young scholars, researchers, young technologists, young students of technical institutions, technological institutions, I think that would be the need of the hour for such kind of conversion that India would like to see sooner the better in near future. As a matter of fact, the things have started changing now, and that is very rosy picture that is coming to all of us. Recently, we have seen, especially the defense sector, that BrahMos is now ready for export, and we are finding number of things now we have started exporting, not only on high-end science but also at the grassroots level as well. For instance, India has a largest pool of grassroots innovators They have developed number of technologies which can be exported for the developing countries, neighboring countries, and especially in the countries which are similar to Indian conditions. For instance, a grassroots innovator in Kerala has developed a device through which one can climb up to the coconut tree, because plucking the coconut tree is very, very difficult. So he uses a device. The device is fit into the coconut tree. He is sitting in the seat, and by paddling, one can climb up to the coconut tree and pluck the coconuts and come back again. So these kinds of devices can be exported to especially South Asian countries where coconut is grown, like Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, etc. So on both the ends, high end as well as the small science and technology, I think we should look towards that kind of synchronization, that kind of development. So now things are changing. And recently we have been working for a program that is called a vaccine. It has nothing to do with this corona vaccine. Vaccine means vulnerable assessment of climate change. So we had a program in Lakshadweep Islands because the climate change situations are visible there. So we have organized a program where some technological developments were on display. And the local lieutenant governor was the chief guest. And he was very much interested by watching the developments. One of them was a desalination plant that was developed something like 20 years before. But he was interested to put in all the island areas, but there was no manufacturer available for that. So we developed the devices, we have the research, we publish research papers, we get the patent, but where are the manufacturers? So that kind of precision, in fact, we require. So we have to bridge the gap between scientific research, technological development, patenting, and its commercialization. So I think this is the time to look towards all these areas and try to find out the ways and means for realizing this picture. Now things are changing. India has started number of missions, and we are now working in mission mode. For instance, this water mission, Jal Shakti, drinking water for everybody, and quantum computing mission, cyber physical systems, hydrogen mission, electrical vehicles. So all these things are going to come. That has a lot of potential for export. So by not taking much of time, once again, I welcome you all on this occasion of National Technology Day. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Namaskar. If there is any disconnect, then we can move to next speaker.
Ranjali, please.
Hello, yes, sir. My speaker first sometimes stopped working. Yes.
Okay, you are audible.
Yes, yes, sir. So thank you so much, Dr. Pataria ji, for sharing your vision with us. Proceeding further, we have an excellent panel of speakers who the audience would be listening to. There is also an announcement regarding the question and answer round that we will be holding at the end of the panel discussion around in the last of the panel session. The audience is requested to write and send their respective questions, if any, in the chat box along with their respective names. कृपया अपने प्रश्नों को चैट बॉक्स में डाल दें. आपके सवालों के उत्तर आखिरी में दिए जाएंगे. Starting off with our speakers, I'd like to invite, we have Professor Ullas Gurudas ji with us. Professor Ullas Gurudas ji holds a doctorate degree in physics laser spectroscopy from Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, India. His research areas are laser physics, laser spectroscopy, ultrafast optics, non-linear optics, and nanophotonics. He has been a postdoctoral fellow at Institute of Atomic and Molecular Science, Taipei, and Rutgers Universities, New Jersey, USA. Visiting scientist to Princeton University, USA, and Paul Scherrer Institute, Switzerland, and research scientist, New York University. He teaches physics-related subjects to the science and engineering graduates. He is a workaholic, has a passion for teaching, and believes that one cannot be a good teacher without being a good researcher. Professor Ullas Gurudasji, the virtual dais is yours.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalayatan University, Professor KVSM Krishna, Dr. Manoj Pateria, the Chief Guest of today's function, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, the Guest of Honor, Dr. H. Purushottam, Professor Poonam Tandon, Professor V.P. Singh, Dr. Kavyanjali Shukla, my dear colleagues and students. I am extremely honored and thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to express my views on the theme of today's webinar, how India is transforming from technology importing to technology exporting nation in connection with the National Technology Day. You know, our humankind's development started when we started understanding the laws of nature, just like we start watching a game without knowing its rules. As we keep watching, we start understanding the rules. We have not understood the laws of nature completely, not even 0.0001% of it. We started listening and understanding the four fundamental forces in nature. Every time one of them was understood and described, it changed human history. The first force to be explained was the force of gravity. Isaac Newton gave us a mechanics that could explain that objects move via forces rather than mystical powers, spirits, and metaphysics. This helped to pave the way for industrial revolution and the introduction of the steam power, and especially the locomotive. The second force to understood was the electromagnetic force, which light up our cities and power our appliances. Edison, Faraday, Maxwell, and others helped in explaining electricity and magnetism. This unleashed electronic revolution that was created a lot of scientific wonders. We see this every time there is a power blackout and society suddenly goes back 100 years into past. The third and fourth forces to understood was the two nuclear forces, the weak and strong forces. When Einstein wrote down E is equal to mc square, and when the atom was split in the 1930s, scientists began to understand the forces that light up the heavens. This revealed the secret behind the stars. Not only had this unleashed power of electronic weapons, it also held out the promise that one day we would be able to harness this power on Earth. Today, we have fairly good graphs of these four forces. The first force, gravity, is now described through Einstein's theory of general relativity, and the other three forces are described through the quantum theory, which allows us to decode the secrets of subatomic world. The quantum theory has given us the transistor, the laser, the digital revolutions that is the driving force behind the modern society. Similarly, scientists are able to use quantum theory to unlock the secrets of the DNA molecule. The blinding speed of the biotechnological revolution is a direct result of computer technology, since DNA sequencing is all done by machines, robots, and computers. As a consequence, we are better able to see the direction that science and technology will take in this century. Where is India's position as far as science and technology and the export of the emerging technologies are concerned? Manufacturing remains one of the most important areas for any country to focus on, especially those kinds that involve high technology intensiveness. Technology-oriented manufacturing has the ability to not only provide motivation to enhance revenue generation, that is through exports, but also has the potential to have a multiplier effect on job creation. The high-tech manufacturing strategy will ramp up the industrial base that is key to our economic growth and make the country self-sufficient in critical technology-oriented manufacturing products. The spin-off benefits would be skilled jobs, enhanced exports, coupled with less reliance on imports, resulting in a sustainable trade balance. Exports have been key to economic growth in most countries. With India's desire for technology goods and the focus of increasingly shifting to new markets, there is immense potential for our country to build competitive advantage in high-tech manufacturing such that we are able to cater both to domestic and foreign demands. Economic theory commonly associates accumulation of R&D with the economic growth of a country. Various national governments continue to revise their policies to stay competitive and relevant, and thus it becomes very important for a country like India to shift from traditional export items, which are largely low technology intensiveness, to medium and high technology intensive exports. In a globally competitive space, countries depend significantly on exports of selected primary goods, which are largely not technology oriented, face constraints in the long run in their development process. The key reasons for India to focus on technology oriented exports is the main concern is that the contribution of India's manufacturing sector to the country's GDP has remained stagnant, peaking at about 16% of GDP and later declined to 15.1%. India's share in global manufacturing is also only 1.8%. India needs a revival in manufacturing with a massive dose of new investment in the sector, which can shoot country's growth. Secondly, the average value addition of technology in products currently manufactured by Indian industry is around 8%, very low compared to even that of other emerging developing nations. Indian manufacturing is rather shallow, with more focus on assembling the sales rather than design and development. Thirdly, India ranks globally 52nd position in 2010 and stands below many of the developing and emerging countries like Thailand, South Korea, China, Indonesia, Mexico, Singapore, and even Bangladesh in terms of manufacturing value added. Fourthly, it is observed that India's share of high-tech exports as percentage of manufacturing exports though has improved during the period 1991 to 2001 by over 20 basis points, it has remained largely stagnant in the last 20 years period. When compared with world average, India lags far behind. This attests well to the fact that there is a tremendous investment opportunity in high-tech product manufacturing in the country. Fifthly, the manufacturing sector in India has been idle for a decade now, and now could argue insignificant R&D orientation in Indian manufacturing as one of the major reasons. Technology-oriented manufacturing is the only way forward for Indian manufacturing to come out of the inertia and take a leap jump towards achieving greater level of economic and export growth. The global exports of high-tech sector are largely dominated by electronics goods and pharmaceuticals, which together constitute 80% of the world high-tech exports. On the other hand, medium tech exports are dominated by capital goods and automobiles, and low-tech exports are dominated by metal products and textiles. While developing countries continue to rule in the exports of technology-oriented products, some developing countries have also managed to take a slice of the pie. China in particular has emerged as a key high-tech exporter in the world with a share of 20% in the world high-tech exports in 2020. High-tech exports from India have been witnessing a significant compound annual growth rate of 26.7% during the period 2010-2020, with the exports having touched $20.9 billion as compared to $8.1 billion in 2010. Notwithstanding this, the country's potential in technology-oriented manufacturing exports is yet to witness its full potential. Pharmaceutical and electronic goods sectors predominate exports of high-tech products from India, with the share of electronics in high-tech exports almost doubling during this period. While key export destinations of high-tech items remains largely the developed countries, there is a need for diversify into developing markets with which have shown dynamism in import demand. The basket of India's high-tech imports is similar to the country's high-tech export basket, but for the absence of many pharmaceutical products, unlike in high-tech exports, where they contribute significantly. A rapid change in technology and India's increasing appetite to buy such high-tech products has increased the import demands for high-tech items like semiconductors. Consequently, the share of these products in India's import of high-tech items have witnessed a significant rise. While India needs to further strengthen its share in the major import market, there are countries where India is already exporting, but at relatively lower levels. These markets are the latent growth drivers for India's high-tech exports and need to be suitably targeted. Focus on high-tech manufacturing products, especially in terms of their international competitiveness, need to be an integral component of achieving this target. Achieving this goal requires coordinated advances in science, technology, innovation, and diffusion of the same. This strategy requires investments in multiple drivers: technology, education, capital, information, and industry infrastructure. India also needs to focus specific sectors like electronics and capital goods. The share of high-tech exports in electronic sector has increased, but at the same time, imports of high-tech electronic items by India also has increased. While the government of India already has in place number of fiscal incentives which envisages enhancing production of electronics, India can also learn from the examples of the successful development of this industry in other countries. I have seen myself in Taiwan. For example, Taiwan fashioned a system that offered incentives to the firms that succeeded in raising their productivity or their export levels, and penalized firms that did not achieve such goals by withdrawing the tax credits and other financial incentives. In this way, Taiwan's leadership maintained a tight focus on policy goals and on performance toward those goals, rather than allowing incentive programs to become mere rent-seeking systems. Institutions in Taiwan are fashioned to encourage performance-oriented behavior. India could follow a similar approach of inculcating the successful experience from abroad while creating a role for itself in the electronics industry. High-tech oriented capital goods are huge opportunity for India to focus upon, not just for the domestic market, but also to tap the overseas markets. This would entail acquisition of technology know-how, especially from overseas firms, through knowledge sharing, joint ventures, acquisition, and investment, both inwards as well as outwards. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Ullas, for such a useful information on quantum theory and technology goods and its role in development of economy in Indian context. Our next speaker is Dr. Hanumantu Purushottamji. He is currently serving as a DP-IIT Ministry of Commerce and Industry IPR Chair Professor at Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. He has been the Chairman and Managing Director, National Research Development Corporation, a central public sector undertaking, and served as Director General of Consultancy Development Center. Both are under the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He obtained his BTech degree in Chemical Engineering from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, MTech from IIT Kharagpur, MBA from IGNOU, and PhD from Osmania University. He has acquired over 37 years of diverse experience across the innovation value chain by working at different government institutions of repute, mostly under Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has also served as a director in the Nico Corporation, Andaman Fisheries Limited, and Shilpi Aquaculture Private Limited, and as an investment committee member of UTI India, Accent Venture Fund. He has also been the member secretary, TBI, ARCI, and member of several committees to government bodies for promoting commercialization of innovations. His core competencies are multidisciplinary research and development, process development, scale-up, IPR management, technology transfer, techno-economic feasibility analysis, incubation entrepreneurship, and startups, consultancy, venture funding, academia, in industry partnership, industrial research and development, project reviews and monitoring. He is the recipient of 17 national and international awards, including Meritorious Young Consultant Award in 1991, instituted by Consultancy Development Center, Ministry of Science and Technology, and other awards such as Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Awards in 2017 for promoting research and development and innovation in the country. Under his leadership, NRDC also got Best PSU Award from governance, now for bringing financial turnaround, and he was awarded a CEO of the Year 2017. He has authored and co-authored 65 project reports, 5 book chapters, 1 book, which is already published. He has presented 85 research papers in various journals and conferences, and has filed 3 patents and helped industry in commercializing more than 350 technologies in different sectors like food and agriculture, healthcare, engineering, chemicals, IT and ITES, etc. Thank you, sir, for coming for this program. I'd like to invite you, and we would love to listen to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kavyanjali Shuklaji, for your very elaborate and kind introductory remarks. At the outset, I would like to thank my friend Dr. Manoj Kumar Pataria and the university for giving me this very privileged opportunity to talk on this subject. I am also very happy to see my ex-boss, Professor Ashutosh Ji, as a secretary DST, and of course Manoj and me, we all worked together in the ministry for quite some time, and I'm thankful to the university, and I also welcome all the speakers, participants for this very important event today. As a scientist, as a researcher, as a faculty members, really it is a very proud day for all of us to celebrate this National Technology Day. Dr. Manoj has already explained why we celebrate and how we celebrate, the history behind it. So across the globe, I think it is for all the Indians, it is a very proud moment, for the Indian achievements. As Professor Ullas and Dr. Manoj has already mentioned, if you look at the history, since independence, how India has progressed. It's not that we have not progressed, and because of the Indian talent, the leadership provided in different spheres, India has achieved substantial progress. If you look at 1950s or 60s of independence, our per capita income was just about $50. Today, if you look at, it's about $1,850. So that speaks volumes of our progress and growth after independence. And similarly, if you look at our GDP immediately after independence, it was only about 30 billion US dollars. But today we are 3 trillion US dollars. So not that we have to worry about that we are not doing well compared to other countries like China, Korea, and all these things. But every country has got its own opportunities and challenges. But nevertheless, we need to go a long way. And there are still a lot of challenges we need to address. And we all know that the science, technology, innovation only is the only solution to overcome all our challenges and to achieve all our sustainable development goals. What the society needs, what the individual people of each society needs have been very well articulated under the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We need technologies to achieve all those goals. So this celebrating this National Technology Day and motivating people, inspiring people to take science, technology, innovation as a career is all very, very essential. So definitely, I would like to compliment Dr. Manoj and his team for organizing this event so that the youth will be inspired by the achievements of our past, the current leadership being provided by the government and various institutions to motivate our youth and youngsters. So I once again compliment to the entire team at the university and the Indian Society for science communication. They are doing a wonderful job. I think such kind of event should be organized more often so that the communication takes place and it motivates the society and it inspires the society to take science, technology, innovation as a mantra for success and mantra for our socio-economic development.
Purushottam, you are muted. Please unmute yourself, Purushottam.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. So our relationship with Manoj started about 4 or 5 years back. In a similar occasion, the National Technology Day he was organizing at NISCAI CSIR, one of the laboratory where he was sitting as a director. So he tempted me, he invited me. I said, boss, I'm a little bit busy. I may not be able to make it. Then he said, no, don't miss this opportunity. Dr. Kalam, who addressed in my Technology Day function in the NISCAI, he became a president of India. If you want to miss that opportunity, then it is up to you. So that is how it motivated me to speak in this National Technology Day in the NISCAI when he was the director. So from that year onwards, I am also getting an opportunity to speak on this very important national day in various forums. So that is just in the lighter vein. Just I wanted to mention that this importance of National Technology Day. The great India is blessed with the great leaders, who inspired the youth, who inspired the teachers, who inspired the scientists to give their best all the time. So the topic for this today's event was that how India has been transformed, from a technology importing country to an exporting country is a wonderful thing. But being a scientist, I may not be able to do justice on this topic. Probably the economists or the policy makers would be the right people to share their perceptions and their experience in this area. But nevertheless, I tried my best to gather some information from the public domain. What is important for us is to, as a scientist, as a technologist, as institutions of eminence, what is important is that we need to enhance our technology exports. Though we are doing very well in terms of exports, but the content of exports, the percentage of in the total percentage of exports, what is the contribution of technology exports? That is what is important. All of us, we need to spend some time to formulate such kind of policies so that we will be able to improve our exports, particularly high technology exports. If you look at our exports and imports, our exports are to the tune of around 485 billion US dollars in 2020. But if you look at the imports are also around in the same order, maybe around 10-15 billion US dollars difference, around 493 billion US dollars. Of course, the numbers varies from source to source, but one of the source which I picked up, this is what it says. So, but if you look at the high technology exports as a share of exports is, as mentioned by Professor Ullas, around 11 to 12%. There's a huge opportunity for us, with the kind of infrastructure what we have, the kind of research programs what we have. There is a huge opportunity to come out with advanced technologies, disruptive technologies, so that we will be able to contribute much, in terms of exports, particularly the high technology exports, what is important. And also, if you look at some of the top export items, what we are exporting is, though we are importing a lot of oil, but we are the processed oils, we are exporting. That is a major percentage of our exports are oils, the processed oils. So there is a need for better technologies in this area. Similarly, the gems, precious stones, the metals also we export. Pharmaceuticals, mechanical appliances, organic chemicals, electricity, machinery, vehicles, iron and steel, cereals, plastic articles. These are all some of the major products which we are exporting. So there is definitely a need for the state-of-the-art technologies, the best technologies, so that we'll be able to enhance the productivity and reduce the cost of production. Then we will be very competitive. And if you see the kind of imports what we are making, the mineral oil, since majority of it is the crude oil what we are importing. That is a substantial part of our imports are because of the crude oil and electronics. We are all aware. Government of India is also taking a lot of steps to reduce the import burden in our economy. The gems, precious metals, also gold is another important thing we import, in a bulk quantity. Electrical machinery, mechanical appliances, organic chemicals, plastics, animal, vegetable fats, oils, optical, technical, medical apparatus is another major area. Iron and steel, some of the specialized steels we import, inorganic chemicals. So these are some of the top 10 chemicals we are importing. So there is a need for, coming out with innovative technologies so that we can reduce these imports for these products. That is where the hitch lies. So all our institutions have to come out with such kind of a program so that we will be able to develop such kind of innovative technologies, high-end technologies, which will give higher productivity and reduce energy consumption, less pollution, and at the same time, less production costs. So the technology export trend, if you look at it, the technology can be divided into three classes of technologies, the low technology, the medium technology, and the high technology. So the high technology and the medium technology, we need to put most of our efforts so that we will be able to do well in the export front. And also, if you look at, the high technology exports, India high technology exports as a percentage of manufactured exports. This point was also touched by Professor Ullas again. If you look at around 22% of the exports, are out of the total exports, 22% of the manufactured exports are from the high technology exports from India. So this is where a lot of potential exists, a lot of advanced research is required, a lot of spending and R&D is required, so that we will be able to develop innovative technologies in this area and contribute for high technology exports. That's what is very, very important for us. And also, since if you look at the transformation, how India has transformed from technology importing country to an exporting country. See, but one important thing we should notice and remember here is that always imports and exports are interrelated. Without importing, we cannot export. So that is the major challenge lies here. Some of the net exporting countries like Germany, Japan, China, they are able to achieve net exports, but whereas most of the countries in the world, they still import if you want to export. The relationship between the export and import, it says that 1% growth in import, lead to increase in 0.6% of exports. Almost is an equivalent relationship between these two. So it is not wise to think we should have an economy like we should only, export. It's not possible. If you want to export, you should also have import for the benefit of scale of economies and other constraints like availability of raw materials, technologies, all these things. And if you see 1960, our Indian exports were only 1.65 billion. But if you look at 2020, our exports have grown to around 474 billion US dollars. To see the growth of our exports and also see the growth of our imports also. At the same period, 1960, India was importing around 2.53 billion US dollars worth of goods and services. But today, you see, we are around 450 to 500 billion US dollars we are importing. So there is a relation between, or a strong correlation between the imports and exports, and one cannot get exports without substantially importing, the components, raw materials, technologies. Is very, very important. You see, our former secretary with whom I worked, Dr. Ramaswamy, used to tell us always one story about the Keralites. The Keralites, they know everything about coconut. They don't know much about other things. And ultimately, they connect their story to the coconut. So as an IPR chair professor, I am also trying to do the same thing. Whatever I talked about the economy and all those things, but to improve the economy, it's a socio-economic development of any country. It depends on the intellectual property rights. The country's IP power determines, the economic growth of the country. Of course, India has been doing fairly well over the years. If you look at 2015 and 2021, the patents, our global position was 15th. Now today we are at 8th position. The trademarks, if you look at, we were 17th position in 2015. We are today at 4th position. The designs, 32th position. Now we are in 12th position. And if you look at the startups, India emerged as the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world. So things are improving, and our scientists, faculty members, the youth are trying to give their best. So there's no doubt in achieving Atmanirbhar Bharat as visualized by our Honorable Prime Minister. I think it is the period for India to emerge as a global leader in the innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup companies. The next, I think, decade belongs to this area, the innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups. And I also try to correlate the intellectual property rights and the GDP of the countries. If you look at the countries who hold the strongest IP portfolios, like China, US, Japan, Germany, there is a very strong correlation between the countries who have got the strong IP portfolio. They are the leaders in the economy. For example, if you look at China, they file around 2 lakh patents. The country's GDP is about 14.14 trillion. Similarly, USA about 21.44 trillion US dollars. India is a long way to reach that kind of a scenario. So as Manoj mentioned, and our guru, Professor Mashelkar mentioned, we need to create a synergy between these two forces, the knowledge of the goddess of knowledge, which is nothing but our intellectual property rights, converting that knowledge into wealth, that is what the goddess of Lakshmi, the countries, the societies who are able to maintain equilibrium between these two forces, they have emerged very fast as an economically developed countries. So that is what we need to adopt, the principles, the policies, of such kind of a bringing an equilibrium between these two forces. Of course, we all know that the government of India is taking enormous steps to establish equilibrium between these two forces. Saraswati, the knowledge and the wealth, this is IPR is a catalyst. So I would like to conclude saying that if you want to transform, if you want to emerge as a leader in the world, or as a scientist, as a researcher, what I urge all of you is that let us try to bring a voice, before the policymakers to see to that our R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP has to be increased. Many secretaries, many officials have tried their best. For the last 2 decades, we are stagnated in spending around 0.7 to 0.8% of our GDP only on research and development. So if you are not able to spend substantial amount at par with some of these smaller countries, we will not be able to come out with the best technologies, the disruptive technologies, the innovative technologies. R&D is the key for prosperity. Unless we spend adequate budget on R&D, I think Ashutosh also would throw some of his experiences, perceptions, and vision on this component. The second submission to all the young participants is that we all should try to give our best all the time. Whether somebody is monitoring us, somebody is supervising or not, I think we should adopt such kind of a culture. We should be self-motivated, self-ignited. Then obviously the good for the country comes like the South Korea, the Japanese, the Chinese, the way they work for their country. So we all need to adopt such kind of a culture in our society, think all the time innovatively, think all the time how best we can give back to the society. I think once we adopt this kind of a approach, definitely India is going to emerge as a leader and it's going to transform as one of the leading and major economy in the world. Thank you very much, Manojji, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming and telling us. Your speech was very motivating for the youth and youngsters. Your motivation that you talked about is always much needed, and regarding the organization of such programs. And thanks for throwing light on the growth of Indian exports and imports and India's global position on patents and designs. Thank you, sir. Now I'd invite our honorable chief guest, our next speaker, Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, who is a visionary academician who has made some exceptional interdisciplinary contributions in nanosciences and nanotechnology fields from 2015 to 2021. He served as the Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is also the Institute Chair Professor and founding coordinator of DST Thematic Unit of Excellence on Soft Nanofabrication and chairman of Center for Environmental Science and Tech Engineering at IIT Kanpur since 2006. He is a recipient of prestigious Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award in Engineering Sciences for his original pioneering contribution to the understanding of the behavior of thin films and other highly confined nanoscale systems. In 2007, IIT Kanpur conferred upon him the Distinguished Alumnus Award. Professor Sharma's research contributions are highly interdisciplinary, spanning a wide range of nanotechnology areas, carbon-based nanocomposites and MEMS and NEMS in energy, health and environment. He has filed over 10 patents, given over 100 invited or keynote conference presentations, and mentored nanotechnology startup. He is a recipient of numerous national and international awards, including the inaugural Bessel Research Award of the Humboldt Foundation, Homi Bhabha Award for Applied Sciences, University Grants Commission National Hari Om Ashram Trust Awards, and R.C. Mehrotra Memorial Lifetime Achievement Award that was bestowed upon him in 2010. He is an elected fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian National Academy of Sciences, and Indian Academy of Sciences. He has also been an INAE Chair Professor from 2011 to 2013 and C.V. Sheshadri Chair Professor 2012. Thanks, sir, for coming to this program. We'd love to listen to you. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. I'm so happy to see a program of this nature being carried out. Of course, Dr. Pataria, who has been my former colleague in Department of Science and Technology, has been greatly committed to the purpose of science communication. And I was very happy to accept his invitation to be part of this program. Even though, as we know, today is a busy day, this is Technology Day, and we already know why Technology Day is celebrated. Is celebrated here. It's, so many different good functions are going on all over the place, scientists, engineers. We're all talking about technology. We are talking about different aspects of science and technology and about how to make them work for us. I was very happy to see so many people that I know, my friends, my colleagues, formerly Manoj Pataria, and I was happy to see Dr. Purushottam again. In fact, we joined, I remember Purushottam, we joined together in Delhi. In 2015, I saw you at the CSIR Science Center. I remember you were very happy to have joined NRDC at that time. And, so you were you always remain optimistic about things. Great. And to see Professor Poonam Tandon, I don't know, Professor Poonam Tandon is supposed to be there in this program. Anyhow, it's great that we are talking about a very important theme. Now, so I would try to talk about things that we usually don't talk about, okay, or have not been covered in this particular session until now. So what are those themes? What are those things? Let's look at, we are talking about import, we are talking about export, we are talking about technology, and it's very easy to lose sight in all of this about what is it that we are talking about. Of course, that there are, there, okay, is amount of import, amount of export, and what we need to do, we need to have greater investment in our science and technology. Of course, all of that is true. Let us look at this concept of Atmanirbharta or Atmanirbhar, right?
Hello?
Now, I would like to argue that there
Hello?
are deep, can you hear me? I would like to argue that beyond technology, there are deep aspects which are related to Atmanirbharta, which are related to cultural aspects, which shape our sociological and psychological processes of the society. And without addressing those, much of it actually remains lip service. Second aspect that I would like to emphasize, that not talked about often, is of course is the role of policies and regulations and all of those processes that make technology work for us. So it's not simply technology. I mean, we have a whole lot of technology. We don't lack actually in science and technology. What we actually lack in is their translational aspects and to be able to get them competitively into market, especially international markets, right? And I would in fact argue very forcefully that we do not lack in science and technology in the sense that we can generate that knowledge on demand. So we are now, India is number 3 in the world in terms of number of scientific publications. And what that means is our Saraswati, as people have been talking about, is rather strong. The muscle of Saraswati is rather strong. And so Saraswati, to my mind, is related to invention. So our potential for generating or creating new knowledge and transmitting that knowledge in universities, for example, is pretty good. Okay, so that as long, creation of knowledge, R&D and so on, we are able to publish. No problem about that there. So which is what invention actually is about, is creating new knowledge. Our problem, our weakness actually is not in that. Our weakness is in absorption of that knowledge, transformation of that knowledge into new socioeconomic opportunities. And so this is a point which is often missed out. Of course, if we put in more money in R&D, certainly we'll get more out of it. But I'm very afraid that that really is not the crux of the matter. In fact, when Raman, discovered his celebrated Raman effect, it is the commercial gains of that did not go to India. There was absolutely no way that they would have gone to India. The reason is very simple. We do not have the ecosystem for absorption of knowledge and to convert that into new socioeconomic opportunities. And you can roughly call that Lakshmi, if you would. Okay, so the difference between invention and innovation is very critical to understand. We are good at invention. I would repeat that again. And in fact, we have seen it during COVID-19 time, which also brings me to the next point. What is it that we lack? Okay, well, when COVID-19 hit us, we had no ventilators, we had no N95 mask, we didn't have diagnostics. Of course, we didn't have a whole lot of things, nothing, zero, and a huge amount of panic. What we did have was panic, right? And you said, look, what am I going to do? Because everybody, nobody is going to export me, right? Everybody needs diagnostics, everybody needs their ventilators. They're not going to do me a favor. So what am I going to do? Okay, it so turned out that within a couple of months, within 3 months at tops, we were able to have the best of these designs for our ventilators, for our diagnostics. And then, of course, the vaccine came along and all of that, N95 and so on. How was that made possible? It could have been done 10 years ago. Absolutely, it's not that our science and technology changed. It was capable 5 years ago to do it. And it was capable now to do it. It's just that our sense of purpose and our working together was never very clear. So working together of Lakshmi and Saraswati, as is often pointed out, is actually something, working in silos. Now, what we did during COVID-19 time, because the purpose was clear and the crisis was present and immediate, so there's this triple helix that works together, which is a government, industry, academia, and we may add to that a startup strand. So all of them working together with a shared purpose and resolve. I guarantee you that every problem that we have of technological nature can be resolved. So as far as technology is concerned, that may not be a bottleneck. I would again argue very strongly that it's not the technology and science which are the bottlenecks. And faster we understand that point, more we would be focused. So Purushottam said very correctly that one of these aspects is IPR. And we have been, of course, very poor in terms of our processes and our structures and our architecture and our culture in terms of intellectual property and its management, and that's changing. So that is fantastic. Now, I was going to talk about the cultural aspects of Atmanirbharta and indeed export and what have you. You see, this is so important that you see, Atmanirbhar basically requires Atmavishwas, which basically means which there's nobody in our educational system, our parents, our teachers, they are doing nothing. I'm so sorry to say, I feel so sad that they are doing nothing to pump Vishwas into our people. It's a question of I can do it. People know that they can do it, right? But nobody actually expects them to do it. And this is actually a very serious problem. Let me give you an example from my own experience. So, about 12 years ago, I was a professor at IIT Kanpur. I'm still a professor at IIT Kanpur. So I was always asking my PhD students to not just become a useless professor like me, but, have a startup. So this was the time 12 years ago when not many people had heard about startups, about technology and so on, IPR. So I always, try to encourage people to do that. And they always said, a whole lot of people thought that a high-tech company in a second-tier city like Kanpur cannot be globally competitive. It cannot manufacture. It cannot be globally competitive. This shows the lack of confidence and vishwas in yourself, which education has not prepared us for. Our society has not prepared us for that. But what happened? Let's say one of my PhD students, he took the bait. He had a high-tech startup in nanotechnology. And like hell, he exported all those machines that we have been importing all this while. He exported it to what we call technologically advanced countries, right? A whole lot of them, and very successful company. So actually what was lacking? What was lacking is not the knowledge. What was lacking is not our muscle in technology. What was basically lacking every time I talk to students is their vishwas. Do they believe in themselves? Do they believe in society? Do they believe in the market opportunities? Do they know that they will be successful? This is the mantra. Okay, the next idea in cultural aspect is Atma Samman. So Atmanirbharta without Atma Samman just doesn't work. It means self-respect. And of course, self-respect means that you give the same respect to others. People who don't have respect cannot give it to others. It's just like money. I don't have money, I can't give it to you, right? So a whole lot of complexes that you see in today's world. One professor criticizing the other, one guy, is trying to pull the other. We see that. We see that in universities, we see that in industry, we see that in politics, everywhere. What we see is that instead of making progress for yourself, most of us are busy actually pulling others down. We have no self-respect and we don't want to give it to others. So this is, you see, so basically it reduces your efficiency of working by 80% right away. Okay, the third aspect, which is cultural, is Atma Chintan, which is a dispassionate analysis of who we are, where we need to be, and how we are going to get there, right? And this is not the same as Atma Chinta. Chinta is negative, but Chintan is positive. and it has to be not self-centered. Okay, not self-centered, but saying, look, this is my dispassionate, objective analysis. Okay, and no, somebody had mentioned this stuff about what do you call it, the scientific temper, right? What is scientific temper? It has nothing to do with science, in fact. Okay, it has nothing to do with how many degrees I have in science. I have seen best of scientists who have very little scientific temper outside of the lab. Okay, so you know, and this is scientific temper has to do with dispassionate, objective analysis, and that's only half the part. The other half is sticking to that in terms of action. So, you know, it's always, we all say that, you know, oh, the best men should win. But when I'm sitting in a committee and my niece appears in that committee, she may not be the best, but I go for her. And so that is not scientific temper. Okay, this is just lip service to scientific temper. And so therefore, unless we have true scientific temper, again, our efficiency gets reduced by 50%. Right? Okay, so let me leave the cultural aspect and let me go to the policy aspect. Policy, I'll illustrate that with an example. You may have the best of technology, but it will not work for you. It will not work for your economy unless you empower and enable that technology to work for the society. And indeed, whether it is for export and for any of that. So, like I said, let me give an example. So example is, you see, very strange. Let me give you some background. That in India, to do any surveying and mapping, you know, surveying and mapping, we need surveying and mapping for development. We need it for planning. We need it for governance. We need it for everything, right? Without surveying, mapping, and now in the digital era, when you have services, right? Your services, infrastructure, everything is based on mapping, surveying, and digital maps. Now in India, a 100-year-old policy is that you cannot do any surveying and mapping without very tedious approvals. These approvals go through Home Ministry, Defense Ministry, IB, and so on, Survey of India, which is part of Department of Science and Technology, and all of that. Typically, it takes 6 to 8 months to get that approval. Now imagine if you are making a bridge, if you are making a railways, you are making you know, expressway, you are making a dam, you are making a big infrastructure, it gets delayed by 8 months. What is the impact on economy? Furthermore, that the data which is available there to the government is not available to private sector. Okay, we all know that government, you know, we like to sit on our data. We don't like to share anything. You know, that's a cultural aspect, but it is there. So, you know, this is a 100-year-old regulation from the British times, because, you know, the masters want to hold everything dear to their chest. They don't want it for development. They want it to control their population and for defense purposes. So clearly there's a conflict between developmental needs and the other needs of tightly controlling the population and you know, defense. Okay, so now imagine that see what we did in Department of Science and Technology is to make a new policy and new guidelines about surveying and mapping. And what that means is liberalization or deregulating the sector. And it means you don't need any approvals. Okay, you want to do survey, you want to do mapping, no approval is required today, either by private sector or by you know, a government agency like the Survey of India or the Forest Survey or any of these half a dozen survey agencies. Now, what that means is, okay, the only restriction, of course, is that you can do surveying and mapping in any area which is not out of bounds by a competent authority, like, for example, defense. Okay, so all the rest of it is totally open to anybody to do surveying mapping. And second aspect is what you call democratization of data. So the first aspect is liberalization of data collection and sharing and so on. Second is democratization. And what that means is all the data which has been collected with taxpayers' money should be available for anybody to work on it for the betterment of the same taxpayers, for the society. And so you cannot hold on to your data and say, look, it will not be available to anybody else, right? So liberalization and democratization are two pillars based on which you can make your technology work for you, for the society at large. And this is the example. Now imagine, it just looks like, oh, okay, what's the big deal? Let me tell you what the big deal is. There is this, you see, most of our rural population, for example, they don't have title to their land. They don't have, all these patwaris, these tehsildar, these local bodies. It's basically a maze, right? Half the court cases are actually because the people don't have title to their land, right? Now, second aspect, if you don't have title to your land, which is clear, you cannot get a loan from a bank. You cannot get loan from any recognized organization. Then you go to the local, shark, the money shark, a money lender who are going to charge you 20% per month interest and so on, right? So there is no capital available for people who do not have their assets certified. Right. So now with this surveying and mapping deregulation and democratization, the new scheme called Swamitwa has taken shape. And essentially that this is doing surveying, mapping using technologies like drone, LiDAR, and so on. And this is giving actually the digital certificates of land to its owners. Is going to be revolutionary. The impact on economy and rural economy is going to be so tremendous that we cannot estimate it. So now what I want to actually, tell you by this example, that it's not the technology which is the bottleneck. Why? Because we had LiDAR, we had drones, we have digital technologies for making maps. We have a lot of startups who want to build applications on maps. Today you basically rely on Google Maps for all our navigational needs, for our service needs, and so on. What is preventing an Indian map? Right? What is preventing? It was basically that it was just waiting for deregulation and democratization of this sector. And so now there would be a flow of capital from urban to rural, because this is where we need capital. It is going to open up new opportunities, right, in terms of, let us say, giving loans. And that's going to stimulate the economy at the very grassroots. So it is not the technology in this case, which is a bottleneck, but our regulations and our policy, which is a bottleneck. And so this example, actually, it goes across many different technologies and their use. So if we want to empower them, if we want to get into export, all the digital applications that are going to be built upon maps, they will open floodgates for export and so on. Or get your R&D contracts, which are international. All of that's going to happen. Let me, since I'm going to be running out of time very quickly here, let me touch upon another aspect. I was talking about connect. We all work in silos. Now, this connect is so important, the connect between industry, academia, startups, the government, and so on, all of this with a common purpose and with a common architecture, the common structure and processes. So, there are new things which are happening. Many of you might know that DRDO, Department of Defense Research, now they are mandated to spend 25% of their budget outside of the labs, their own labs. For example, they are setting up centers in IITs, in universities, and so on. This brings the connect to the scientific ecosystem at large. So we must understand we not have to be always inward looking and saying, I must solve all the problems myself. And in fact, Purushottam said that, there is no export without import. And that is so true. I mean, this is also true on a micro scale, which means, I should not, because I'm a ministry of XYZ, does not mean that I would solve all my problems from A to Z. There are many other people who can solve it for you much easier, much faster, and so on. So question is to work together, to work in synergy and so on. So you would see actually the outcomes which happen because of these connects. A whole lot of that is happening. We know that defense, there is a big push on bringing in Indian industry to be able to deliver. And make no mistakes about it. See, other countries, it's not like they wake up one night and then say, tomorrow I'm going to deliver this 100%. okay, the very, very best, and so on. There's a history, there's a foundation, there are decades of work behind it. And so this is the foundation we need to lay now. We need to start somewhere. I mean, okay, we may have missed some opportunities, but as they say, jab jago tabhi savera. Okay, so jab jago tabhi savera. Today is a very good day to wake up and make this foundation. On this foundation, we are going to build for us, for others, for import, for export, for all of this. And it requires that we do that now. You see, another point. India has a lot of strengths in order to be able to absorb and generate technology. What are those strengths? One of them, of course, is our demographic dividend, which means that the country is very young, right? People are, mean age is so low. Educated young people with a lot of energy are running around, roll up their sleeves, and they want to do something about it. Right. And there's a huge market, and there's a deep, strengths in R&D and the institutions and so on. So all of these are our strengths. But we must remember that these strengths, and especially the demographic dividend, is going to turn into a demographic liability within 30 to 35 years in the country. So this window of opportunity is not open forever. This window of opportunity must be recognized and addressed and leveraged immediately. So our challenges are present and clear. We cannot work with the same speed that we used to work with 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. Okay, it's just a different world. It's a disruptive world. There are new challenges on the horizon of the future, and we have to be totally future ready in terms of both technology, in terms of policy and regulations, in terms of the cultural aspects of the society. All of that has to be now. Just to tell you some future challenges and how they are going to be different from the past. The future is all about the convergence of different streams of knowledge and technology. And this is something we are not good at. The convergence, the integration, we are good at, we're good at analysis, but not good at synthesis, because we work in silos, as we already said. So, both our education, our training, our expectations, they all work in silos, very self-centered, but even self-centered in a stupid way. Even to be self-centered means, I must work with others for my own good, for myself, right? So that to understand that for my own good, I work with others, right? And that, so what I was saying is future challenges are about integration, about synthesis. It is the convergence of communication, fast, reliable communication, computing at the edge, which means distributed computing in every object, and of course the network computing, making autonomous decisions which are distributed by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on, and then having autonomous perception and bringing in information and knowledge. So perception through sensors and autonomous actions through actuators. So this is what you call Industry 4.0. This is where all of robotics, the entire humanity is basically moving in that direction, which is saying a bundle of communication, computing, autonomous decision-making based on big data, perception and actuation, which means autonomous actions. So we have to be really good at it. We need new kind of training, dynamic information sharing, and education, whatever you call it, and so on. Another overarching challenge is about the future of humanity, which is a sustainable development. This requires not just technology. This requires technology, no doubt, but it requires a turning around, if you would, at the deepest seat of consciousness. Now, this is in fact easier said than done. Gandhiji was not able to do it. Nobody has been able to do it. Everybody came, they said something and went away. Okay, because we are basically selfish people. Okay, and so somehow our challenge is to convince people that they would be selfish in understanding that, you see, if you don't have a planet, you cannot exploit it. Okay, so please make sure that the planet is there for you to be able to live by its exploitation, right? So sustainable development right now is an oxymoron, because our concept of development is contrary to our concept of sustainability. Okay, no matter how you try to, sweeten that deal. Okay, it just would not, in the long run, would not mesh at all. Okay, you know, you cannot have 5%, 10%, 2%, whatever growth. Okay, the way we define that growth by only through consumption, and historically it's been done like that. It's just only 100-year-old history. World was not always like that. We can still have a new paradigm for development which is required. This definition of development is only turn of the last century Chicago School of Economics, and they're not the only wise people in the world. And this requires our confidence to say what kind of society you want to build by technology, but also by understanding the limits of technology and saying, look, what is it that we need to do? So future challenges. And then, of course, the future challenges I talked about, intelligent machines, the rise of it, which is going to impact every aspect of our life. Every aspect, not one aspect of our life would be untouched. Industry 4.0, the further convergence of technologies would also bring in its fold biology. So right now, it is the convergence of cyber and physical, which means digital and physical. But the third element in it is the biology, which means that cyber physical gets in our body or our body gets into cyber physical, either way, right? And this is Industry 6.0, which is waiting to happen, which would be, I mean, my own reading is within next 20 years that revolution begins. All of these things have a beginning, but they have no end. And how do we to be totally ready for these things? Because these challenges are not simply challenges of technology. Let me repeat that and conclude also at that note. There are a lot of other stuff that we can talk about, in this context that we are talking about import, export, and so on. But let me, just reinforce this aspect, saying that, look, it's not only developing science and technology which is solution to a problem. Now, I would say it very slowly, okay, because I do have 2 or 3 minutes, right, to drive home this particular message. First thing, if we keep talking about, only R&D, then we are barking up against the wrong tree. Okay, the reason I'm saying this, I've seen this because we are scientists. So we can only bark up that tree. We have no other tree to bark up on, right? So we keep saying, look, how can I enhance my science? How can I do? Of course, we need to increase our quality of science. But most importantly, we need to provide a direction and relevance to that science. Now, that is something which does not happen in a scientific lab alone. It happens because of connect of that scientific lab, of that scientist with the society at large, with the industry, with other stakeholders of science and technology who are going to be using that knowledge. We can generate knowledge, but the people who generate knowledge are not the users of that knowledge. Now, this is such a simple fact, but often overlooked in all the discussions and everything. So I say, hey, let us do something more about science and technology. Of course, we need to do more about science and technology, no doubt about it. But question is, even if you do more of the same, then the outcome will be also more of the same. Okay, and so it would be strange to expect a different outcome by repeating the same action at a larger scale, right? This is how one defines. There's a definition of stupidity. Okay, to do more of the same and expect a different outcome, it's not going to happen, right? So therefore, our challenges are on different levels. They are on the level of consumption of knowledge. They are the level of cultural aspects of consuming that knowledge. They are the level of policies and regulations and laws. And finally, it is the will of the society that drives everything, right? That will of the society, I'm afraid that really is something that we pay very little attention to. Okay, and so at that positive note, okay, a very optimistic positive note, I end, my presentation. If you would, thank you so very, very much for being here, still being here. I see 70 participants. Thank you very much, all of you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, sir, for your guidance and gracing the occasion. And many of the participants are on our social media platforms. Thank you, sir.
I have to join another program, so with your permission, I would leave now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Kabyanjali.
Kavyanjali, unmute yourself. Kavyanjali.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji for his useful insights and about what he talked about the invention and innovation, but more importantly, what and where we actually lack. That's the most important aspect. And I would also like to thank him for explaining those difficult concepts with the help of this COVID-19 scenario example, so that it was like quite understandable for us. The importance of Vishwas and Atma Chintan in education. The failures, indeed, if we don't even talk about them, we won't be able to correct them and grow. And as he rightly mentioned, our strength in terms of Indian youth, that other developed countries don't have. So I'd like to thank him for coming here on this platform and enlightening us with his views. Next, we would now proceed for our question and answer round. The question and answer round we'll be taking up now. There is one request from Ms. Gyaneshwari Ojhaji. She says that I have a request that please organize such conferences on history as well. If someone would like to take that question.
I can take that anyway, Dr. Shukla, if you like. In fact, what one should do is not just about history. It's about the history of the future, if you would. Okay, so to understand the future, you must understand the history. And the history of the future is my favorite topic. I would be very happy, if you organize something about that and saying, look, what is it? It's not, history is not something which is fossilized. That's the way it is presented in universities, in schools, and so on. You see, today we are making history for tomorrow. Okay, so history is a dynamic thing. Okay, what we do today in the present is the history of tomorrow. We make the tomorrow by history. Okay, and so history should never be, should never be divorced from the future. Okay, because they are one whole. They work together. If we have a certain future, we need to have a certain history. Okay, your future, your aspiration for the future determines your history. It's not only the history that determines the future. It is the future that reaches to us, and saying, look, for you to have that future, you must do this now. You should make that history, right? And so the history, yes, of course, you should have a history. You see, the history of science, this is a very fossilized subject, and it has become totally uninteresting. Okay, the thing is, they can read, saying, that fellow did that 2000 years ago, somebody did that. What is the relevance of that for our world of the future? That is the only question that we need to settle based on history. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. I hope Ms. Gyaneshwari Ojhaji will be like, she got the answer and will be satisfied by what sir said. So the next question is this is by Mr. Rakesh Singh. He asked, how easy is it to develop management professional to have a scientific technology bent mindset and tech professional having the management expertise in adapting to the given situation or scenario? He is a research scholar from management, Mangalayatan University.
Purushottam ji can handle this.
think Ashutosh ji is the best person to answer.
And I am not the best person, but I can answer everything. Not a problem. Okay, I'm not best. If you like, I can address
Yes,
this
sir.
question.
Yes,
The
sir.
question is, look, both the scientists and managers have to work together. And it is not, you see, for the critical of any enterprise. And we talked about Saraswati and Lakshmi, right? So generate knowledge, but how to effectively consume that knowledge, right? That is why scientists and managers have to work together. And I'll give you, I have talked to many startups. Okay, I've been, been in touch with a lot of people who have startups, young people. Many of the startups fail because of the reason that they have good technology, but they don't have good management. Okay, the person who come up with technology with the idea does not want to lose control, bringing in a manager, right? And manager oftentimes do not appreciate, scientists, right? So this mutual gain and understanding are so required for them to work together for their own good, right? And so problem with this, again, I would say, is not technology alone will not succeed, right? Of course, you need to have market realities. No matter how good an idea is, it will not succeed until its time has come. In other words, the market and society and consumers are ready for it. And that particular aspect, no matter how brilliant the idea, you need managers. Basically, I don't mean these conventional managers. I mean somebody, who's not just doing science, but who is doing, look, is it going to succeed? How is it going to succeed? And so on. To doing work on that. And so scientists and managers both have their role. Okay, it's something that we have forgotten. So sometimes managers boss around, they make more money. Okay, that can happen, but that is a distortion in the society. Okay, you see, society worships all those who don't serve. Okay, the basic, what do you call, the basic mantra of every society. I'm not talking about India only. From historically, from 5,000 years ago, society above all values all those people who do not serve. Okay, so this is how it is. It's always been like that. So if you are the man on top, you are doing the least. Okay, but you should do actually the most. And to make sure that the respect and the salary and everything else that you earn is in proportion to your contributions. Anyhow, that's a separate issue. But managers and scientists working together, that is the sure recipe for success. But they must have mutual understanding. They must have mutual respect for what each person brings to the table, right? And a lot of startups, I'm afraid, they fail because of this reason. That while they have brilliant idea, brilliant technology, they don't have brilliant understanding of market realities.
You're absolutely right, sir.
Yes, next.
Okay, next question. Then another question is from Miss Asma. She asks that no doubt that the art of technology never fail, and it is in a continuous learning process, building higher and better for technology for the nation. So what about 5G technology and environmental degradation point of view?
Sharmaji,
Yes, sir.
Ashutosh ji, I think
Should I repeat it once again, sir?
5G आप ही का domain है. साहब भाई क्या?
Should I proceed to the next question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Repeat कर दीजिए.
Acha. She asked that no doubt that the art of technology never fail, and it is in continuous learning process, building higher and better for technology of the nation. So what about 5G technology and environmental degradation point of view? I think she wishes to ask for environmental degradation. Do we have some kind of technology?
Toto and
Professor Purushottam ji, would you like to say something on this?
No, sir, I am not able to answer.
Okay.
You can try.
Dr. Ullas?
No, sir, I am also not able to answer that.
कृपया अपना माइक्रोफोन बंद कर लें, जो भी इसमें जिनको बात नहीं, सब लोग अपना माइक्रोफोन बंद रखें जो बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. मेनली जैसा कि डॉक्टर आशुतोष शर्मा जी ने कहा कि एवरीथिंग इज इंटरकनेक्टेड. So as the technology, environment, and our culture. So everything has to be taken care of. If distortion takes place in one aspect of the entire chain, the other aspect is getting affected. So this is a kind of system we are living in. So we should not undermine the significance of anything, whatever comes in front of us. So as he already said, we have to respect, we have to honor. At the same time, we have to have the self-respect for that per se. Only then if we are able to have a balance, we can, like in our culture, we are respecting trees, we are respecting rivers, we are respecting all the natural resources. So thereby, if we continue doing so, we can safeguard and conserve our environment. And many technologies are coming, and there are some systems of technology audit. So every technology has to undergo a kind of audit system. So after the audit of a technology, one can come to know that whether this technology is going to affect the environment or affect the society, or what kind of impact it is going to have. So after that kind of analysis, we can make it out whether the technology is going to be beneficial or not, or how much beneficial. But always there are two aspects, one good or other bad. Like in a matchbox, if you are using a matchbox, the matchbox can be utilized for igniting the lamp. At the same time, the same matchbox can be utilized for putting something into fire. So for that purpose, we require an attitude and aptitude that we call the scientific temper and technological temper. Only by way of these two things, we can take right kind of decision, whether negative or positive. So again, it comes to us how we are going to use that technology for good or for bad. Thank you.
So your Manoj Kumar ji, every technology before it is commercialized, the regulatory framework comes into picture. Before you establish a manufacturing facility, the concerned authority, they will ask us to submit the report. What is the kind of impact assessment, report? What is the kind of impact it's going to make on the environment, society, all natural bodies. So there is a body of experts who reviews that, and they call for a presentation. Once they satisfy only for any technology, for any manufacturing facility, they give the permission. That kind of systems are in place.
Oh yes, yes, sir.
Right, sir.
So
And
next,
sir,
next, please.
I'd like to just add on कि हांगकांग में कुछ measures हैं, कुछ technological measures लिए गए हैं environmental degradation से बचने के लिए. उनमें से एक है green buildings. तो यहाँ पर इस तरीके की कुछ green buildings बनाई गई हैं जो water save करती हैं और reduce करती हैं waste, और वहाँ पर मतलब उनका जो architecture है उस इन सब aspects पे काम करके उनको natural lighting और इस तरह से जो है मतलब बनाया गया है कि काफी चीजें जो है सस्टेनेबल रहें, उनके वो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स भी मीट करती हैं. तो इस तरीके की चीजें हैं, कर रहे हैं साइंटिस्ट. तो देयर इज डेफिनेटली टेक्नोलॉजी देयर फॉर to prevent environment degradation. So next question.
Before you move to the next, I would like to add that you have mentioned this green buildings.
Yes,
in the
sir.
Himalayan region,
Right, sir.
there is a new kind of technology that is being used, that is called solar passive buildings. Generally, the buildings have to be warm, and for warming the buildings, we require energy. In hill areas, especially Himachal, and J&K and other hilly areas, Uttarakhand. We require a lot of energy for warming the houses. So for that purpose, they have put together a kind of solar passive buildings. One side, especially the south side, where the sunlight is highest and maximum. They put a wall that is a glass wall, or that is a black wall that absorbs more energy, more heat, and releases slowly in the night or during the day when sun is not there.
Okay.
So this is how they are saving on a lot of energy.
Right,
and this is very useful for these areas. So such things are happening now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. बताने के लिए अच्छा update रहा, पता लग गया आपसे. Okay, then we move on to the next question. I don't think so there are any more questions. So in that case, we would like to proceed with the program. Then I'd like to invite our Honorable Chair, Professor KVS Krishnaji, Vice Chancellor, Mangalayatan University, Aligarh, India. He comes with an experience of about 30 years in the fields of economics and management, teaching and research, and educational administration. He has been associated with several institutes, including the Alliance University as Pro Vice Chancellor, Academics, and Dean, Research and Scholarly Development. The Mangalayatan University as Pro Vice Chancellor, Strategic Planning, and Dean, Institute of Business Management. Dean, Academics, the Modi Institute of Technology and Science as Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, and Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India as Professor and Course Director. His postdoctoral career began from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and traveled through Institute of Rural Management, Anand. He has studied economics in Andhra University and has worked for his doctoral award at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. His teaching interests includes economic analysis, economic environment and policy, entrepreneurship theory and practice, and family business management. Researchers include economics of human bondage and land tenure, transaction costs, economics, entrepreneurship. He prides in his directorial role of 2-year action research projects on the economic regeneration of Kutch and Saurashtra, sponsored by the European Union and conducted at the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. His academic administrative accomplishments across the organizations that he has been associated with includes launching newer academic units, programs and courses, respectability and collegiality among students, members of faculty and the support system, and quality in the educational offerings. So please thank you so much for coming over here, and we would like to listen to you and hear your ideas and vision. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla, for giving us a few moments and a very long introduction. I would have loved to have the time with me to share my views with my colleagues here. A very good afternoon to all of you, gentlemen and ladies. It has been a feast of pleasurable learning from a host of professors around. Dr. Manoj Kumar Pataria, Professor Ullas Gurdas, Professor Purushottam Hanumantu, who hails from my own native land, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, and then several others who had given their ears to wonderful exposition by these speakers. And I think the foremost compliments go to the society, the Indian Science Communication Society. It's onerous responsibility of spreading the knowledge of science and technology across the country and its citizens. I'm so glad on this National Technology Day, Dr. Pataria and his team thought of putting up this event, and they have brought onto the forum such stalwarts like Professor Purushottam Hanumantu, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Professor Ullas, so on and so forth. I once again wish you all this late afternoon, and I wish you on this great day, National Technology Day, which was actually thought of by one of the finest political leaders of the country, Vajpayee Saab. And then it's going on every year successfully. This year also it had gone off very successful. Since the morning we have been watching, starting from the Honorable Prime Minister's views on this. So many things have come up. I wished I could have a direct dialogue over this platform with Professor Ashutosh Sharma. I missed on his presence at this last moment, but I'm sure the dialogue would happen and it would continue, and the gist will go to him, get transmitted to him. Hearing to him was a music to my ears. Such a beautiful conversion of science and technology with everything other than science and technology. The culture, the economics, the management, the politics. And in the absence of such a synthesis, that is what perhaps this communication society is also aiming to accomplish. It should focus on such communication where this synthesis brings about the targets that we are setting for ourselves, for the society. It's true, his anxiety, that there are cultural factors. There is no problem of science and technology. If we all remember the Jugaad technology of this country, there was no lack of technological mindset among people. But it is unfortunate that technology is being viewed as akin to Lakshmi. It's unfortunate. And Indians, since ages, have been beaten to be non-commercial, to be less ambitious. If there are outliers, a few who had been commercial successes are commercially ambitious, these are only outliers. They can't represent the larger society, Bharat. In Bharat, since ages, if we look at, ambition was not resorted, particularly for wealth. Ambition for wealth. And therefore, it's not right to think that the society is not scientific, the society is not technological. If we look at Professor Anil Gupta's experience at IIM Ahmedabad, phenomenal documentation of the Jugaad technology, and he created a commercial platform for that. He, in the sense, his foundation, the NIF. I'm sure, many of us are aware of it. Okay, his NIF is the foundation's acronym, I believe, that has done tremendously good work in commercializing these street side agriculture land, agriculture labor-based innovations. He tried to create a patent for that. Patenting doesn't come as a culture with Indians. This is what I wanted to have a dialogue with Professor Ashutosh Sharma, that when he said democratization of data, Indians are very good at that. That's the reason why patenting never emerged in this country. Patent history in this country is very recent, we all know that. Just about 3-4 decades history it has. leaving aside the isolated cases in the deep past. Okay. That's the kind of attitudinal dimensions this country had. Look at the phenomenal creation of Mahabharata as an epic novel. A novel of a fiction of, even if you consider that as a fiction, without having a single flaw in it, fault in it, without having any inconsistency whatsoever throughout this long epic. No inconsistency anywhere. That's the kind of acumen people had. But then during those times, documentation was not thought of very strongly. It was only Shruti and Smruti type of approach. One tells it and the listeners remember it, and it continues. The transmission goes on and on and on, generation after generation. Only recently, the documentation in at least a Talapatra Grantha form has happened. Very recent origin is that. It is a cultural factor. That's what very finely Professor Ashutosh Sharma had hit that so appropriately that it is a cultural factor. We need to develop those cultural dimensions. And that too, there too, we will have to be very careful. As a communication society, we will have to be careful. What is that we want to communicate? Should we communicate an unending ambition for wealth creation, an unending ambition for commercialization of inventions? Professor Sharma said, very rightly, we are no deficient in inventions. Yes, in innovations we are. That's where the connect part or the linkages that he is suggesting, if can be put in place, there too we would excel equally well. But then that ambition has to be developed as an attitudinal dimension. Therefore, if a good communication is to be articulated, what is required to be communicated, the concept has to be articulated. My suggestion to the forums, various forums which are in this kind of a line is, yes, he touched upon self-confidence, that's important. And another thing that goes well in converting these inventions into innovation is future orientation. Tomorrow is going to be better than today. Tomorrow, my strengths are going to be greater than my strengths today. My weaknesses are going to be improved tomorrow. Opportunities are going to go up. Threats are going to come down. And now the critical question here is, why would it happen that way tomorrow? Is it simply a sort of optimism? Or is there any base to think that it's going to happen that way? Yes, there is a base, because I'm going to be there tomorrow to ensure that my strength goes up. That's the level of self-confidence. Self-confidence and future orientation, if these two go hand in hand, inventions would very easily get converted into innovations, even if they are not for wealth creation so much, unending ambition for wealth creation. Even if it is not for that, innovations do happen. We have been innovating intellectually since ages. As Professor Sharma was mentioning, yes, if we are called for, we are performing on the innovation front also. And that called for is not within ourselves. We don't. I mean, that's what I mean. Since ages, it's been beaten. It's been hammered. This is the kind of orientation, if we could create alongside scientific accomplishments, scientific achievements, India's scientific experimentation and successes, along with mentioning these things or creating awareness about these things, if such cultural, attitudinal change or need for change is driven home through the societies like the one that has put up this event today, it may go a long way. It may go a long way in making this society an innovative society, not just an inventive society, but an innovative society as well. We need synthesis, as Professor Sharma was insisting on. We need conversion. While diversion creates, conversion is needed for implementation. We are very poor in implementation as a country. Creativity, there is no dearth in this country. But on the implementation front, we are very, very weak, very poor. And that's where these syntheses are needed. Synthesis even between science and technology, and these sociological, economic, political kind of thing, particularly behavioral kind of thing that Professor Sharma is talking about. Such synthesis is very much needed, not only the synthesis of various disciplines to create technology, but also to make this society an innovative society. Synthesis between science and technology and the other areas which are not science and technology. That's the kind of thing if we can drive home. I am extremely happy that this event has been put up. I congratulate Dr. Pateria and his team and the society that they represent, Indian Science Communication Society. We are glad as a university, we joined hands. We joined hands because Dr. Pateria is part of this university. He is a director, scientific research. He is director, sponsored research of this university. And therefore, he has every responsibility to put up these kind of performances and shows. We encourage, we are there with him. Mangalayatan is a value-based university set up some 14 years ago. We continue to be value-oriented, and in the process, if we are to compromise on a little financial health, we didn't bat an eyelid. We continued. And we are facing the the complexities and results of such approach, but still we are going ahead. We have almost every discipline, and from this year we have entered into even medical disciplines. We started with nursing and Ayurveda, and soon we would get into the allopathy undergraduate program, that is the MBBS program. We are into that. We are well established as a hospital and other accompaniments. We are going ahead, and we will be there in this mission of science communication that this society takes up on its agenda. We are there as partners in it. We continue to do that. And I wish we continue to have this dialogue with Professor Ashutosh Sharma and Professor Purushottam Hanumantu and several such scholars across the country to see to that the efforts are not only genuine, but also right and to the point. Rightful interventions in this respect. We are a game. We are always there with you all. Nice meeting you all. Nice listening to some of you, and we shall continue this journey. Good luck to all of you. Good luck to all of us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us with your views.
Thank you, sir. Nice to hear you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hope to see you again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Please do visit us, sir, at your convenient time. When you
Sure, certainly, sir. It's our pleasure. It's
Yeah.
our pleasure. We shall do that.
Abhyanjali, next, please.
Yes. Then मैं आशा करती हूँ कि आप सभी को ये ये पैनल डिस्कशन बहुत उत्साहवर्धक और उपयोगी लगा होगा। और अब वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए मैं आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी डॉक्टर वीपी सिंह सर को। प्लीज सर, ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, Dr. Kavanjali ji. On behalf of Mangalayatan University, Aligarh and Indian Science Communication Society, I am very thankful Professor AVSM Krishna ji, Vice Chancellor, Mangalayatan University, Aligarh, for his presidential address. Our chief guest, Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, former Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, for giving very valuable address on the occasion of the National Technology Day. And then we have the speakers from Mangalayatan University, Professor Vilas Gurudas ji, Dean Academics, Mangalayatan University, Aligarh. I am thankful to you, sir, also. I am thankful to the guest of honor, Professor H. Purushottam ji, IIT, IPR, Chair Professor from Andhra University, former CMD, NRDC, giving very valuable and practical input on this occasion of the National Technology Day. And I am thankful to Professor Poonam Tandon, Dean Students Welfare, Lucknow University, who joined us on this National Technology Day. Apart from this, I am thankful the main person behind this all program, Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar Pateria ji, President, International Science Writers Association. Needs no introduction in the field of science communication and communicating science and technology to the masses in India, a known figure to all of us. I am very thankful to you all, sir. And I am thankful to Mangalayatan University, the Nano TV and SCOS for live streaming of this on the YouTube and Facebook. And about 1,200 participants are there listening us and viewing us. So I'm thankful. We have the faculty members of the Mangalayatan University. I'm thankful to those. And apart from this, we have the faculty member professors from the Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar Central University. We have the officials from One District, One Product of UP government, Shri Srivastava ji. He is also with us, and we have the students and alumni of the Indian Science Communication Society from all over the world. And I can see Patil madam, I can see you, and I think Banani Kundu is there from Portugal. So I'm thankful to all of you, and there are a number of science journalists, science communicators, science writers in this platform. I am thankful to everybody, all the research scholars, students, and the participants whose name I have not taken. I am thankful to all of you, sir, and thank you so much. आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस पर ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं। नमस्कार।
Thanks to Kabyanjali also for the anchor.
Thank you, Kavanjali, conducting the whole program.
No, sir, no need for that.
From Hong Kong, yes. She is our alumni and research scholar of the Lucknow University, and very great science communicator doing in Hong Kong, communicating science, Indian science to the Hong Kong science in India. So exchange program. So thank you, Dr. Kavanjali Shukla. Thank you very much.
थोड़ी ज्यादा तारीफ कर दी आपने सर. I feel I'm really humbled and thank you so much. Then, sir, lastly, we would all like to join for the national anthem. And if there is any announcement, sir, if you want to make, इस बार अगर कोई announcement है तो अगर नहीं है तो हम national anthem की तरफ proceed कर देते हैं. We can
those who are joining from the research areas. So this is for information that Indian Science Communication Society brings out a journal, Indian Journal of Science Communication, that was seeded and catalyzed by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. It is on the UGC care list and the Web of Science. So those who are interested, they can submit their papers and get it published on Indian Journal of Science Communication. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. National Anthem, we'll proceed.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you. Hopefully soon we will be having the offline programs as well once this pandemic goes off.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
For joining us for National Anthem, और मुझे भी ये moderating का अवसर देने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद organizers का और धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर वीपी सिंह सर का, धन्यवाद डॉक्टर पटारिया जी का जिन्होंने मुझे अवसर दिया कि मैं आप लोगों से इसी बहाने मिल सकूं और इतनी सारी यूजफुल बातें सुन सकूं। और ये पैनल डिस्कशन अत्यंत ही ज्ञानवर्धक रहा मेरे लिए भी, और मैं आशा करती हूँ कि ये बहुत ही ज्ञानवर्धक रहा होगा बाकी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए भी। और बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे माननीय स्पीकर्स, चेयर और कीनोट स्पीकर को, एक बार फिर कन्वीनर्स को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
Again, so much is on Facebook Live, so much is available in so many different forums that some freedom, unnecessary, I would say.
Recording stopped.